This is Brent with Lykins Motorsports. This is a Robert Pond Motorsports cast iron block. It's a big chunky boy. Very nice blocks overall. Really like them. Have used a lot over the years. These things are chunky. About almost 300 pounds, I think. It's got my cart swagged, and I've even got it sitting over to the side instead of in the middle. But this is for Mr. Dennis. This is for his 496 build that we're going to be doing with trick flow heads, and it'll eventually have some Weber carburetor setup on it. And this video will be on prepping and painting this particular block, getting it ready for assembly. It has already been fully machined. The mains have already been honed. It is now a 4.310, actually a 4.311 finished bore size. We had the custom Race Tech pistons, the skirts coated at calico, and they were a little bit fatter than what we were expecting. So took the bore sizes out just a little bit more to give us the sufficient piston to cylinder wall clearance that we needed. Decks have been cut, done some preliminary grinding already, and pretty much we're going to be getting the cam bearings in, and just talking about a few of the features of this block. Get some paint on it, get it on the engine stand, and probably going to get the rings filed this week, as well as some measurements taken. So we're going to get started on this build. I think I've done a video, maybe one or two already, featuring some of the parts that we're going to use for his build. It's a scat steel crankshaft, and some Race Tech pistons, and some other stuff. So we're going to get started. Just a few features on this block. The deck surface does have drain holes. So if you want to use, let's see, this guy right here, if you want to use camera heads, single overhead cam heads on these blocks, that is the drain. So obviously we plug that. When you put a cut plug in it, put some silicone over it for good measure, and seal that bad boy up. The screw-in freeze plugs are aluminum, and they've got a nice O-ring on them, so they seal up really nice. The rear main gallery plug is also O-ring. This is a -6 AN plug with an O-ring. I'll show you that here in a minute. The cam bearings that we're going to use are some Durabond FP01s. These are wider than a traditional FE bearing, and because of that, you have to be very careful on how far you drive these in, because you can actually drive them in far enough that they'll overlap a lifter bore, and you don't want to do that. The front bearing is very wide. What I usually do here is replace it with just a standard Durabond F33 FE cam bearing. Otherwise, we'll be able to see it more when I get the block turned over on the engine stand, but otherwise you're grinding away a big chunk of the cam bearing just so the distributor will clear, and it's just not beneficial really to do that. So I use just a standard cam bearing in the front, use the others on the other 4 positions. Let's see, what else can I say about this block? Billet main caps with ARP studs. So lots of guys putting well over 1,000 horsepower through these, and they're just big beefy pieces. Oh, peeking out from under the cart there is the intake manifold for our 351 Cleveland project. Had that one steel braided and taking it down to natural cast iron. So that'll be ready for later. But yeah, I'm gonna get some cam bearings knocked in. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so we got all of our cam bearings in, and I don't have Mr. Dennis's cam yet. It is a, what I call a fully custom cam made from a round lobe core, because we needed a good bit longer lobe separation angle than what is available with the typical cores. But we're gonna go ahead and slide a test cam in, and I'm turning this with just the snub on dry bearings, so everything turns really smoothly. And we'll check the clearances later when his cam come in, but I don't foresee any issues. So what I can go ahead and do is drive our rear cam plug in, a little bit of silicone on the outside, and send that baby home. Choice of poison here is our Dow Corning 732. Get a nice little coating on the outside. FE freeze plugs always go in, the cam plug anyway, always goes in backwards to the way that you would think. Then I use a freeze plug driver. And then you just send her home. Okay, got our rear cam plug in and a little bit of silicone around the crevice there, just as a safety, and that's pretty much it. If you don't put anything there and it leaks a little bit, then a little bit of silicone could have saved that. I've never had a cam plug leak, but I always do the silicone around the crevice part, just as a safety precaution. This one's ready to get on the engine stand and get it brushed out and washed again. And just notice this little piece of cast iron here that's kind of flared up. I'll grind that down just in case it's sticking out far enough to catch a counterweight or something. But other than that, we're ready to get it on the stand, get it washed, and get it painted, and move on. All right, we got our block mounted to our engine stand, and here's the top end of the blocks. Just really nice pieces in terms of just the casting. There's no air bubbles or porosity in the casting. Big drains everywhere with a nice lead in to them. The lifter bores do come undersized, so make sure that you or your machinist has a lifter bore hone that's adjustable so that you can sneak up on the bore size. I think typically these are between 1 and 2 thousandths undersized. So you need a good micrometer and a bore gauge to measure your lifter bore clearance to whatever lifters you're using. Here is the hole that needs to be plugged for the camera drain backs, and we'll put a little cut plug with some silicone over it down in there. Test fit the distributor after you get your front cam bearing in, so that you ensure that there's no issues. And you can see if I would have driven that wide bearing in, how much I would have had to grind away, because the block is this right here. Is just a little bit of a lead in for your oil feed for your distributor. I did pass some compressed fluid through there, and we get, you'd be surprised on how little a hole it takes to pass pressurized fluid. So got a significant amount of oil to where it lubes the distributor gear and the shaft, so we're good there. Otherwise, it's time to get washing and cleaning. Very nice block. Very pleased with Pond products. All right, let's talk about oiling paths for a second. So this is considered a side oiler block. You got this main passage that goes down the side of the block, just like the factory side oiler blocks. Here's your offshoots to your main bearings, obviously side bolts. This is a true priority main block, and I'll explain this. So this passage right here goes up, feeds your cam bearing, your #1 main bearing. It dead ends right here. On factory blocks, this usually takes a 90-degree turn and comes up right here while intersecting this gallery right here. If you do that, then the oil coming from the pump will split off, going to your mains and also going to your lifters first. This block forces the oil to go all the way down, hit all 5 mains, and then come up the back, and then it dead ends right here. So if I were to shine a light through this gallery plug right here, it'll dead end right here. These are your lifter offshoots. So this one feeds this bank of lifters. This one feeds this bank of lifters. So the lifters are at the tail end of the oiling path, which means that your mains, your rods, and your cam bearings will get oil first. Pretty cool. All right, so we got everything cleaned off. I pumped lacquer thinner through all the oil passages, and we've got everything masked off now, and we're ready for paint. Since this block has so many smooth machine surfaces on it, we're gonna start with some engine primer. This has got a little bit of a tooth to it, so it'll stick to the block. Then we're gonna follow that up with this SP153 VHT, and it looks completely different looking through my phone than when I peer over the phone and look at the top of the cap. So the color may not be on your screen what it shows in real life, but we're gonna get this block painted and get it primed, and then put a couple coats of color on it. All right, we got our color coats on and primer. The primer dries really quick, so it didn't take too long to get this painted up. Got 2 coats on there, and we're gonna let her dry for a little bit. Everything looking good. Got our screw-in freeze plugs back in. Those are aluminum, and they are very shiny and machined, and it's just not even worth the trouble of trying to paint them, because paint won't stick even if you use an epoxy primer. I've been there, tried that. So now we're going to got these plugs in. This is a 7/16 cut plug driven in, and then some silicone on top of it just for a little bit of extra measure, obviously below the surface of the head gasket. We've got 3 1/4-inch pipe plugs that go in back here. You want to put a little bit of oil on those before you screw them in so that you don't gall those up. Don't forget the plug in the distributor bore. If you leave that one out, you'll hate yourself for a pretty long time. Got the external plugs for the main galleries. I put some Permatex thread sealant on those, and there's a drain plug on each side that gets Permatex thread sealant. The plug for the rear main oil gallery is this plug. Earl's Fittings makes these. It's a -6 with an O-ring, and I'll use an aluminum AN wrench so I don't mar that surface up. But and then obviously all of our rear gallery plugs. So I'll get started on those and get those screwed in. Okay. All right, so we're gonna put our head dowels in. Just get those started. Drive them in with a little hammer. And then on the other side. All right. All right, so I've got the block flipped over upside down on the stand, and this is the front end of the main oil gallery. When you use a pipe plug, just make really sure that when you screw it in all the way, you can shine a light over in this hole right here. And if the plug sticks through, then it can impede the flow of oil. So you want to make sure that it does not do that. You can trim it off, do whatever you need to do. And here is a view of everything painted and plugged and ready to go. Next thing to do is I've already measured and checked our piston to cylinder wall clearance, and the crank is at the machinist right now to be balanced. And the only thing I can do is file fit the piston ring. So I'm gonna get that done, and I'll get back with you. For piston rings, we're going with Mahle. These are for the 4310 bore, 5 thousandths oversized, so you can file fit them, and they are a 1515 3mm ring pack. All right, so we got all of our rings filed, and I can set these aside for when the short block will go together. I hope to have the crankshaft back at the beginning of next week. It'll be balanced, and then I can check my main bearing clearances. All that I have right now is a set of non-coated Federal Mogul main bearings, so I will check the clearances with those. And if they give me the clearance that I want, I will send those off to Calico to have those coated. Then when they come back, short block will go together. That'll be probably a temporary stopping point until the cam comes in, because I can't do much else until I can check piston valve clearance, degree the camshaft, that sort of thing. But we've got a big chunk done today, and ready to bag it up and to say goodbye. So thank you very much for watching. And hey, I want to say thank you to everybody for the kind words that that you guys put in the comments after I mentioned that I had a little bit of a stint in the hospital. I did experience, I guess what they would call non-sustained ventricular tachycardia for about 4 seconds or so. I had several instances where my heart would just felt like it was coming out of my chest, and luckily I never did have any chest pains or short of breath or feel like I was going to pass out or anything like that. So was in the emergency room for 2 different times, and ended up having stress test and an echocardiogram and some other tests done. And they said, Mr. Lykins, you have the heart of a teenager. But there's something electrically that's going on. So they had me on some medicine, and I haven't had any issues since I started the medicine. So just everybody keep your toes crossed that the medicine will fix it. But thank you for all your words. I appreciate them very much. And thank you for watching this video. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so that you don't miss out on follow-up videos of these builds. And I hope you guys are having a good week.